Alright, hello and welcome to my somewhat probably silly tutorial of the Warped Forest and everything about it. So, this is really, sudden. I got the idea to do this, literally 20 minutes ago, because I got recommended Fuller Guy's, tutorial, update, because he did a massive RSG series on YouTube about basically just how to run RSG in Bedrock 1.18 Plus. And he had made a bit of an update to his series because there's a bunch of new stuff that's come out for speedrunning the latest version in the last few years. Because obviously this game is still getting updates, albeit somewhat slowly. So he was showing some stuff about Warped, and I just wanted to... I mean, he has talked about it a lot, but I think I'm pretty good at Warped. I've been speedrunning this game pretty seriously for a while, and there was some more input that I wanted to give that can be very important for. So, what I first wanted to point out quickly is, since this tutorial isn't completely it's not completely RSG focused, I just want to talk about Warped in general, but what is important for RSG, if you're looking for Warped, is it can't touch Soul Sand Valleys. So, if you're looking for a Warped Forest biome, the worst way to look for one is to be in this biome, because Minecraft uses something called biome temperature, and something about this is a warm biome and Warped is a cold biome, or something like that, or the other way around. It's not that important, but Soul Sand Valley cannot touch Warped Forest any more than a desert can touch a tundra or anything like that in the overworld. They're different temperature biomes, and so they cannot touch each other. So it'd be good to go somewhere like a Crimson or a Wastes. Crimson are these trees. Wastes would just be the kind of default biome, like what the whole Nether was before the update in 1.16. And I guess looking for Warped, what would be next most important after avoiding Soul Sand Valley is probably the most important part. But after that, I would say just being aware of terrain. I see a lot of people make strange terrain decisions sometimes just because they're not stopping to think about every option. So, like, for example, if I was trying to go this general direction, and I don't have a particularly large amount of blocks to bridge across this gap, I want to look around a lot, because there are options. Like, I could head around this way and come along these trees and go forwards. I could mine blocks and bridge that gap. I could run up here. I mean, generally, you'll get better at picking the correct terrain just with playing. You just have to play the game a lot to get used to what terrain is going to be the best to choose. I can't just tell you some, algorithm that's going to work for you every time, but just consider your options, because committing to something too fast can often give you worse terrain than you could have had, and it can end up losing a lot of time and be more dangerous. But anyways, I'm gonna look at my notes here. I have just a few notes. There is also blindness stew. This is something that was discovered somewhat recently. If you want to be able to see further, if you eat blindness suspicious stew, obviously you'll be blind for a little bit, but once it clears, you will be able to see really far for just a second before it goes back to normal nether fog. So, like, for example, if I can't see this, like, if I fly far enough away that fortress is in the fog, I can't see it. If I eat the blindness stew and wait for it to clear, just for a second, you could very clearly see the fortress. And I would recommend doing something like crafting or mining blocks while you're waiting for the blindness to wear off, so you're not just doing nothing. But anyways, now that we've gone over looking for Warped, I'd like to talk about Warped Spot. I think this is probably the most important part about becoming a good Warped player. The Warped Spot is really going to determine how fast your split is, more than anything else. And there are a few points that I want to go over. Some of which you might know about, so I'm going to talk less about the more generally known ones, but I do want to think a little bit about how those work in a way that you might not have before, even if you know about them. So I did block off this lava earlier, so I don't have to deal with it while I'm showing you stuff, but that's why it's flowing down. Obviously, in Warped, the only thing that can spawn is Endermen. If you're in the Warped Forest biome, the game will not spawn like zombie pigmen here, it won't spawn ghasts here, or skeletons, or anything. Disclaimer, it can spawn striders in these little lava areas. Technically, in a Warped Forest, striders can spawn, but we'll get to that later. Most of the time, you don't have to worry about them. But yeah, like this is a waste biome, so zombie pigmen could spawn here. So you don't want to be close to this when you're warped setup. Generally, you want to be in the warped and only the warped. You don't want to be loading any other biomes while you're here, or structures like building your setup too close to a fortress can really be detrimental to your spawns. If I wanted to set up down here, oh, there's a blaze spawner right here. And of course, if you were in RSG, you would not be able to see this. But like, especially if you're doing something like the SWS tournament right now, which is Scout and Route, if you can scout and you know that there's a fortress or you can see it while you're playing RSG, you are going to want to stay away from that. And I'd say, if you're ever in a situation where you have to choose between being close to another biome or being close to like a fortress, I would probably prioritize being further away from the fortress than the biome. Because fortress mobs are just gonna... They spawn there, they don't leave, and there's gonna be so many of them. I guess it depends on, like, which is closer. Like, generally, you want to try to avoid all of them, but the fortress is probably the more important one of the two to avoid. Next, I would say when the next important part of Warped, which I see people struggle with a lot, is visibility. So here looks like here would be like a decent spot. You have okay visibility. You want to be able to see as much of the ground level as possible, because while Endermen do sometimes teleport on top of a tree, you definitely don't want to count on that. That's more often an annoying thing than a good one. But yeah, you want to think about visibility a lot. And another thing that I think about sometimes is we'll get into different warped setups soon, but some are higher than others. And so if you have a lot of high trees, just building a shorter setup can actually help a lot, because you're going to have a lot less of those trees at eye level. Like, for example, Warped Umbrella, while it is pretty slow, it is very, very low. So in RSG situations, sometimes if there's terrain above you, or like there's a bunch of tall trees, Umbrella actually can work pretty well as opposed to other ones, just in terms of vastly increasing your visibility. Like, I can see so much more if I'm down here than if I was like up a little bit further next to these trees. Like, there's just a whole area I just cannot see now because of these trees. So visibility is important, but I'd like to show you this spot up here, which I think would be best in terms of visibility. If you can see like lower down terrain from where you are, that can help. You can aggro guys down there, and maybe like if you're down here and you see, oh, I like that terrain up there, you could build a staircase as you're coming up here for the Enderman to be able to pathfind up. But yeah, visibility, very important, because Enderman can spawn pretty far away. Like, if you have, I usually look for like little alleys or like lanes. Like down here, I noticed, for example, if I were to build right here, there's this whole area over here, and there are a bunch of vines, but like it goes pretty deep, and you'll often have like spawns of 2, 3, 4 Endermen just in a little cluster down one of these alleys, or I don't even know what to call it. It's just like a lane, like a little opening where you can see really far. Like this opening here, directly where I'm pointing, is really awesome. You'd be able to see a lot of Endermen here. So the reason I bring up these lanes is like, a lot of the times I think when I'm building my warp setup, I'm like, how could I move this even like 3 or 4 blocks to make it better? Like, this is a good spot, but if I move like 3 blocks to this way, I now open up this lane where I can see a ton of Endermen, and that just makes it a lot better. So even moving your warp setup just a few blocks can make a huge difference. But anyway, what I want to talk about next. Layers are somewhat important to warp. I think they're one of the less important parts, but they can make a huge difference in certain scenarios. So obviously, nether terrain is wacky. We'll have different like levels to the terrain. Like you have this random pocket of lower terrain down here, below the higher terrain. You got this bit up here, above, down here. You know, there's like layers to warp. So you want to look for a spot where there's not multiple layers. And I say that with an asterisk because I'm going to talk about something a little bit later that has to do with layers, but for now, a spot that doesn't have a bunch of different layers of warped is a good idea. Like, if below here, there was lower down and more flat terrain, I should not play warped up here because I'm just going to get 0 spawns. I think a great example of this was in teeheehee versus X2 Sky recently in SWS, the famous match that coined the phrase TS warped is so mads. Sky played a warp that was pretty high up. He was at like Y97 or something. And while it was open and beautiful and you could see super far, he just got like little to no spawns. And I really think that a big reason for that was that there was probably other layers of warped somewhere where he was setting up. There was somewhere else where Endermen were spawning. teeheehee ended up playing a warped that was like, there was a basalt delta loaded. It didn't look good immediately compared to X2 Skies, but when you took in the fact that teeheehee's had no other like shelves above or anything, it was really low. teeheehee got like 1 billion Endermen, and Sky just did not. And unfortunately, teeheehee accidentally threw an eye and lost that match. Probably would have won it if that hadn't happened, but teeheehee's warped ended up paying off because there weren't other layers. And yeah, I did mention that height is important. You might have heard me say low down. High up warps will generally have a harder time being really good. They can be if there's not other layers, but generally lower down warped is quite good. Like, even there was a spot over here that I saw while looking at this seed that a lot of people might disregard, but this would probably be a good spot. Like right here would actually be pretty good. If you could block off that lava's annoying, but this is so low down that there's gonna be a lot of Endermen, and there are some spots up here where they could spawn. So maybe if you like moved over here a little bit, this would be even better. But this is super low, and the lava seems like it would be a huge problem, but it's not really that big of a problem, unless it's like a tiny little island. You just want to consider that every bit of lava is a spot where they're not spawning. But along with that, you get crazy visibility. So like I can aggro guys that are over there on that part. Like I can just see everywhere because there's no other terrain or trees in the way. So yeah, low down terrain, very good. If you can do it, like if you have slightly better terrain that's a lot higher up, you should probably play the lower terrain. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I hope this isn't going to be too confusing, but this is something I think about a lot, and I don't think this is hardly ever thought about in Warped Forests. So I think that if you've learned warped setups before, like building the warped tower, which I will talk about later, so if you don't know about that, don't worry. But the thing with Enderman pathfinding is they're going to want to stand in the spot that is the closest to you. Like, these guys are really stupid. They're not smart. But they do work off of math. They are coded. So an Enderman will know if one spot is like 0.2 blocks closer to you, technically, than another spot. And then they'll just stand there and they look stupid, but technically they're right. It's closer to you than the boats would be, which is where you want them to be. So you gotta think about it in terms of like a straight line between you and them, right? Like if you were the center of a big sphere, like imagine I'm in the center of a big bubble. If I look at any of these sides of that bubble, it's gonna be the same distance from me, right? If I'm in the very center of the bubble, every point on it is the same distance from me. So if I'm on a short warp setup that's only like 4 blocks tall, the spot where the boats would be is only like 3 blocks away from me. So the only way the Endermen are going to get stuck on any other spot and not pathfind to the boats is if there's a better spot that is less than 3 blocks away from me. So I'd have to be like right here next to this tree for them to want to sit there and not pathfind anywhere else. But if I'm on a warped setup that I decided to make, like 10 blocks tall, now the boats are like 9 blocks away from me, and Enderman could teleport onto a tree that is 6 blocks away, and they're like, yeah, this is way closer than down there. Why would I go down there? And they're technically right. So, like, high warped setups, while they can improve visibility, can be risky because it can cause Endermen to be stupid and, like, well, technically they're right. Technically they're not being stupid, and they'll stand somewhere that is not your boats. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're using tall setups. If your setup is short, this is one reason why, especially like the Bob Tower, which is one of the towers I'm going to show later in the video, there's just so much less risk of them not being able to pathfind. You know, like usually when you set up a tower, you'll want to break any higher terrain that's near there so they don't just stand on those blocks. This is a mistake that Verdant made in her 1244 former RSG world record. I don't know if it was really a mistake, because the warped terrain just really hardly allowed for her to avoid it, but it did happen. Endermen ended up not going in the boats. They would just, like, stand on the edge of the terrain, just kind of staring. And part of the reason for that was because Verdant's warp setup was, like, she was using the old PC tower, which had her pretty high up, and so obviously the boats are far away, and so the Endermen might look for alternate places that are slightly closer. Because Endermen aren't just thinking about, like, XZ, like, on the plane how close they are to you. They're thinking about up and down, too. So, like, you're 5 blocks up. This spot is not directly below you. Like, they're not just thinking about closer in terms of this. They're thinking about, like, up and down, too. So this would be closer. So that's why you don't want to build next to trees, and you want to be careful with taller warp setups, because Endermen will be dumb in a smart way, and they'll not pathfind into your boats. Okay, now I want to talk about setups, finally. So the first setup, which I think is very intuitive, you hardly have to learn it, because, like, anyone could figure this out, is the umbrella. So you just are building a roof above you because Galaxy Brain move. Endermen are tall and you're not. You're a short little guy. So if we build this roof like this, Endermen can't get here. And also, by the way, you don't have to worry about, like, placing a block here because they won't teleport right there. It can astronomically rarely happen. It happened to me one time. So if you would really feel more comfortable, you could, like, put a button here. Although, it like, seriously, it's very unnecessary. It won't happen to you. But anyways. Umbrella in the modern day, just straight up umbrella, looking at these guys and whacking them, is pretty obsolete because they'll just teleport away, and it's quite slow to constantly be waiting for them to come back. So, since they now get stuck in boats, you can mine some blocks here because, obviously, like I was saying before, they want to be closer to you on the y-axis too, so they'll try to get into this hole to be closer to you. So if you place boats around the hole, you have to break these little roots. Bro, get out of the way. If you place boats on top of the hole, they will end up wanting to go into the boats. So that's umbrella. It's very simple. Generally, people just make it this 3x3. There's really no point in making it bigger. Making it smaller, they can hit you. So that's about all you need to know for umbrella. It's very simple. Oh, also, do not build it out of anything that Enderman can grab. They can grab dirt, looking at you, Hayden. They can grab warped Nylium, as you can see. This guy's a perfect example. Thank you, sir. Don't build it out of anything that they can grab. And also, the reason you might notice, I replaced the blocks directly around me. They were Nylium. I replaced them with netherrack. This way they won't be able to, like, tunnel in and get to me. Ah! Fell into Narnia. Attack me. Some people, if you're going really fast, they'll just replace the 3 blocks in front of them, because those are the most likely for Enderman to try to take them, because of the hole you're gonna dig. But if you want to be safe, just completely replace the whole donut of blocks. But the reason I'm not going to talk about Umbrella a lot, mostly, aside from it being simple, is that it's bad. It's slow now. There are much better warp towers. So first I'm going to show the one that Bowler showed in his video, which I don't think is ever really the right play anymore, but it's a good intro into the ones that I do want to show. So let me just get a boat. I'll only need one because I'm creative. Place as many as I want. And a button. Although the button is kind of optional. I highly recommend. So, I'm not going to worry too much about getting the perfect spot because I'm just showing you the setup. So, as before, if there's like blocks around, I'd recommend breaking those so Endermen don't try standing on them. You want to have some flat space around so that they don't, and don't be too close to a tree either. So what you want to do is you build up 4 blocks and create the flower. That's what I like to call the flower. And if you want to, it's really fun to try cranking this. You like build up and then you spin around and place them all really fast. It's fun. And then after breaking this one, because this is where the lava is gonna go, this is the difficult part. So you have these 3 blocks. You want to bust out the middle one, but of course you're gonna be up here when you do that. So you want to bust out the middle one, and then don't move your mouse. So after you bust out the middle one, I recommend not moving your mouse or controller, and then you place a button there. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But that button basically just makes it completely safe, and you'll never have any Enderman mishaps. At least not of a certain kind. And then you, from here, will build up 3 blocks. And then just make a roof over yourself so that they cannot get to you. And this roof, by the way, you can extend if you want. Like, if you want to, say I want to build to the side to be able to see a certain area I couldn't before, I could just, like, extend it. And so that's helpful. And then, after you aggro Endermen... Oh, wait, I forgot to tell you to put the boats in. Before you stack up, funny thing about bedrock, if you just, like, place a boat in this hole, it'll just fall through. It's kind of weird. That absolutely wouldn't happen in Java. But yeah, place the boats. You can place the boats while there's blocks on top of these, but I would definitely advise you to avoid doing that because that can make the boats face in the wrong direction and be messed up and be bad. So yeah, the reason you build 3 blocks up here is because Enderman could teleport up here, up on top of the flower, and you don't want them to be able to hit you. So you want to be 3 blocks up. But the reason I say that that tower is kind of obsolete is because there's a much simpler and much safer and better way to do this. A big problem with this tower is 2 main things. One, it's tall, so if you want to have a shorter setup, you don't want to have this thing be super tall. And also, when you're up here, I can't place a block now because the Enderman got in. When you're up here, you have to place the lava in this hole, and it's difficult. And it's easy to accidentally place the lava in the wrong place. Like, see, for example, if I place lava here, that's going to be really bad, because look, oh no, there goes all your boats, and all your ender pearls burned. And that is, of course, very, very bad, because now you have no warp setup and no pearls. So, placing my boats back. That's the problem with the PC tower, especially if you're on controller, it's really hard to get that aim down. So what you can do is just build this up another block. Wow, look at that! And then build a ceiling above yourself that's the same shape as the flower below. And now you can very easily dunk the Enderman with lava. They won't be able to hit you from down there, and you can aggro as many guys as you want. So this warp setup was generally considered to be the best for a very long time. There is a slight variation I should show you. I call this one the Ophi Tower because this is the way Ophi does it. So he builds up 4 blocks, and then you actually break 2, and then go up 1, build like this. So the gap is too wide. And the advantage with this is you can put more boats. Ophi usually didn't, so I don't really know why he always did this tower, but you can put 4. And I'll tell you why that's important. Actually, I can just tell you right now. It's because, say I had 3 boats, so that's 6 seats in all of them. If those boats get completely full, so if 6 Endermen get into those boats, then if I look at a 7th guy, and he's running in here, he's trying to get in the boats, but he can't, watch what's going to happen. He's going to push them out of the way, and this is not good. This is bad. We don't like this. So, having more boats means you can look at more Endermen at one time, without having to worry about them, you know, pushing your boats around. Oh, and also for the lava tower. Wait, no, I'll talk about that during aggroing, actually, because that's more important there. Yeah, so those are 2 of the lava towers. The PC tower is what I named the first one I showed, where you stack up 3. And then there's single gap and double gap. The last tower that uses lava, which I want to show you, is called Fence Aligned Tower. And this one is a little bit outdated at this point. People don't do it super often anymore. But I think in some situations it can be very good. So you build this plus 3 fences and then this block. And the reason you want to put these fences, because now if you look at this pixel of the fence, of course you don't want to stand too close because you won't be able to place it. Look at that pixel of the fence. I can place as many boats as I want here. Like literally infinite. Of course, at a point, it's like diminishing returns. You know, you only get so much value out of adding more boats. Generally, 4 is all you're gonna need. You could justify doing 5, but pretty rarely, I'd say. Look at this guy. Yeah, you place those boats there, and you'll notice I broke these blocks. Failed to explain why. It's just so that the Enderman can get into the boats easier. At this point, after you place that block on the fence, up 2 blocks, and you build a flower right here. And the reason it's right here is because now if I put lava here, and I close it off, if the Endermen get into these boats, the boats are at just the perfect spot because of the fence, that when they get in the boat, like that, you'll see it stayed in the boat. Because otherwise, they'll teleport out instantly because of the lava. Like on the normal lava tower, if there's lava there, when they get into the boats, they'll just immediately teleport out because they took damage. So with this setup, that doesn't happen. And so you can look at as many Endermen as you want. You don't have to worry about the boats being pushed. There's no cycles or anything. You just look at as many Endermen as you want, and you don't think about it. They just die. Oh, also, yeah, build a roof again. I think the best variation of this tower is the reason I wanted, back when I was talking about different heights, the reason I said, wow, there's a lot of boats there. The reason I said it doesn't always matter if there's multiple heights is because there's a variation of the fence-aligned tower that I liked to use that can take advantage of multiple different heights at the same time. So, like, this spot is probably a strange spot to use as an example, but like if I build fence-aligned tower here, bunch of boats, oops, one up here, break these 2, flower, lava. If I place buttons up here, and then, the buttons are just so that Enderman can't teleport up there. If I grab vines, I can, if I have a bunch of these warped vines, which you conveniently can get, I can go up and down. I can play every layer at one time. I can look at guys up on that layer. I can look at guys up on this layer, over here. You can play all of the different layers at one time, which I think is pretty cool. And they sometimes do get stuck, so sometimes you have to come back down here so that you're closer to the boats and they get in. But I think this is a pretty cool variation of Fat Tower, using these vines to play multiple layers. That's more of a thing for scouting, I'd say. It's harder to see a situation where this would be good in just improv play it in RSG, but it is pretty cool. That's the thing that you can do with the Fat Tower. Okay, now suffocation towers are what I'm going to talk about next, which are currently widely agreed upon to be the best towers, specifically a certain one that's actually pretty new. It's called Bob Tower, and if anyone tells you differently, they're lying to you. So Bob Tower is really nice because it's probably the fastest right now. It's really easy, and it's really short. So this is the tower I use almost 100% of the time. It's really easy. You build this kind of U shape, and then Bob stands for boat on button. Boats on button. So you just place a button here, and then if I crouch and I look at the, it doesn't matter what part of the button you look at, you can place the boats. So it's easier than fence align because you don't have to look at a specific pixel. It's just you look at the button, you place them. And then if I go up 2 blocks, place a block here, and then I can go up higher if I want to, and then protect myself. And now I can just look at as many Endermen as I want. They'll suffocate in there. So they die a little bit slower than on fence align tower, but it's just so fast to set up. So like, for another example, why is this guy here? Need my sword. What a lot of people do now is super fast setup. As soon as you've placed this suffocation block, just don't go any higher and just build the roof right here. Because while we still don't know why the Enderman can't hit you, but if you build this setup, like if I go into survival and I aggro some Endermen, they won't be able to hit me. It feels like they should, because like their heads come through. How do they not hit me? But if I'm right here, instead of being higher, it's really low down, which, as I've said before, is nice, and I can hit them. I can crit them out, standing right here on the Bob Tower. So this tower is just super easy to set up, really fast. You just need 4 boats and a button. And also, you only need like 10 blocks to set this up. So it's way less resources than fence aligned. You don't have to worry about lava, so if you don't have a bucket, that's no problem. And... wait, what have I not listed? I kind of forgot what to say. I forgot where I was in that sentence. So, it's good. It's a good tower. It has a lot of advantages. I can mention the fast tower. I think this is completely obsolete at this point. But people used to do this. It's like fence line tower, but you have 2 of these blocks here, and then you can place a bunch of boats on both of these fences. And then it's pretty much the same thing as Bob Tower from there. You can just protect yourself and look at guys. It's just a little bit slower because you have to use fences, and fences are kind of annoying compared to buttons. And also, it's always higher up than Bob Tower is. Okay, so that's all the setups. Well, actually, there's one more setup I'll briefly show, but I feel like this one is very rare that you would need it. If you ever are on really, really low terrain, to the point where, like, not even Bob Tower is short enough, and you don't want to play Umbrella, there is a variation of Fence Line Tower that uses an Umbrella, and so you can be low down and still play it. We're gonna have to see if I remember how to set this up. It's something like the normal Fat Tower. You would, place boats here, flowered shape, and the lava. And you'd probably want to do buttons so they don't teleport up here and be stupid. Break these 2 blocks, and then set up your umbrella right here. And see if this is where they would normally pathfind to. If they try to step in here, they're going to get in the boats and just die to the Fat Tower lava. So it'll kill them a lot faster, you don't have to hit them yourself with a sword, and so you can just constantly aggro guys. So I feel like this one is very situational. I feel like you'd very rarely be in a situation where you need to use this tower, but I guess it exists if you ever want it. Okay, next, I'm gonna take my sweater off because I'm getting hot. Okay, hi. What I want to talk about next is aggroing the Enderman. I think there's actually a lot to think about in this area. It seems very simple, like you just look at the Enderman, it's not that complicated. But actually there's a couple of things you should know that will help you out a lot when you're doing this. So I'm just gonna set up Bob Tower. It's its best tower in 99% of situations, and I'm gonna also turn down my hostile mobs audio because I don't want to be deafened by the suffocating Enderman while I'm doing this. So if I'm in survival mode, obviously you probably know at this point that you look at the Enderman's head, but what I've definitely noticed is the aggro hitbox in Bedrock is bigger than you'd think it is. Like, watch it. Yeah, see? Did you see how soon that guy aggroed? If I slowly approach him, there's a lot of lenience there. You don't really have to look directly at the Enderman's head. It can be slightly out of the way. And, of course, you probably should just aim at the Enderman's head, but knowing that the hitbox is bigger than it looks is important for reasons I'm going to talk about now. So, as you can see, sometimes if an Enderman is walking around and you're trying to aggro it, and it doesn't, well, it did that time, but sometimes they'll just be, you probably experienced this, where, like, you try to follow them, and they just are stupid, and they won't aggro until, like, maybe the last second, if at all. And the reason that happens is actually because in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, the point where the game thinks you're looking and the point where you see your cursor is not exactly the same. There's a little bit of delay. So, while you're trying to follow the Enderman, it looks to you like your cursor's right on its head, but since you're moving your mouse, your cursor's actually slightly behind its head, and it will never be right on it. It will never aggro because of that cursor delay. So the best thing to do if an Enderman is walking is to just set your cursor in front of it where it's about to be, and then just wait for it to walk into it, like that. That's the best way to do it. If an Enderman is running around, you just want to be like, okay, it's going to walk here, set your cursor there and wait. And it'll always aggro the Enderman, because then you won't have to worry about that cursor delay. So, yeah. Don't just, like, keep your mouse directly on them and try to follow them like that, because lots of times it just won't work. The next thing I want to talk about is prioritizing the right Enderman. If you have an Enderman that's, like, kind of behind a tree, and it's hard to aggro, and you're trying to, like, get the right angle to be able to aggro it, there could be a ton of other super free, easy Endermen that you're not seeing at the time. So what I generally try to do is if there's an Enderman that is, like, behind a tree or something, I just don't go for it immediately. I try to look for other Endermen and see if it'll walk out of the way to a spot where I can aggro it easier. You want to get the guys that are easy while you can. It's like always be looking around. While I'm in Warped, I like to try to think about nothing else. Just only think about aggroing the Enderman, especially on a tower like this where you don't need to do anything, it just kills them automatically. Just think about nothing except for aggroing the Enderman. And that way you can focus on prioritizing guys that are going to be easier to aggro over guys that are going to be harder to aggro. But yeah, the next thing I'd like to mention quickly is counting. Counting is more important if you're doing one of the towers where your boats can be pushed, namely the PC tower and then the 1 gap and 2 gap, the basic lava towers. Because if you look at too many, like I said, they'll push your boats around. On this tower, you don't have to worry about that, but you should still count because, like, if you're playing RSG and you're doing Stronghold first, you know how many pearls you need. So you should count twice that many Endermen and then check, because on average, if you look at twice that many Endermen, they drop half the time. You'll probably have what you need, and it allows you to avoid both spending too much time on the warp and checking your eyes too early and just wasting time when you are only going to have like 6 pearls. So like if it was a 0 eye, you need 12 pearls, look at 24 Endermen, and then drop down. I'm probably going to have a lot here. Yeah, because I've been just aggroing them while talking. This is a pretty good warp spot. But yeah, I think counting is always correct. If you lose count, just estimate, because, like, you know, the luck is not set. You might get less, you might get more, so there's no point trying to be perfectly exact when the game itself is not perfectly exact. If you lose count, just, like, go to the last number you remember or something like that. And yeah, so for some of the towers where your boats get pushed, you do want to think about cycles, like cycles of 6. Count 6 Endermen. And so, like, if you want to look at 24 Endermen, that's 4 cycles. So you can count your Endermen in the boats and how many you have in total at the same time pretty easily. Because if you just know how many cycles you've done, then you know how many Endermen you've killed. Just by multiplying it by 6. Or 8, depending on how many boats you placed. So that's about all I want to talk about for aggroing. And next there's just a couple of things I want to mention, which I didn't know what else to call other than maintenance. This is just like managing your warped setup while you're playing. One of these I instinctually did while I was playing, and that is when I checked my pearls, I had vines that I just used to climb back up. This is nice because it's easy, it's up and down, and Endermen cannot climb up this. So I think vines are just the best way to check pearls, ultimately. But if you don't have any, I want to point out a mistake I see people make a lot. For example, on this one, oh, I'm still in survival. Wait, let me just be able to do this. On this tower, for example, I see people will, like, so you're looking at Enderman, whatever, you're playing your warped setup, and you want to go down and you want to check pearls. What they'll try to do when they need to get back up and they don't have vines is they'll try to stack up and then, like, break blocks behind them to make sure there's nothing for the Enderman to teleport up onto. But in reality, if it's that close to you and it's just one block, the Endermen are very unlikely to teleport up onto it, so you can just leave that there. Or what's even better is you could just do that, and now it's just part of the setup. You don't have to worry about breaking blocks. Even if you, like, stacked up 4 blocks a little bit away like this, and then jumped in, just leave that. Like, if an Enderman teleports onto that, you can just hit it off. This does not matter. It won't be a problem. What you definitely don't want to leave is one block like that, though, because if an Enderman stands on it, and they will, you won't be able to hit it off, and it'll be really annoying. So if you're going to stack up, just leave it, or add it to your setup, is what I would recommend. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I'm getting towards the end. Fixing boats, I guess, is something I could mention. So, like, if your boats do get pushed around, you can kind of fix them yourself by trying to push them back towards the center. It's kind of hard, but I guess if you're ever in a situation where your boats are, like, so pushed that Endermen aren't burning, it would definitely be beneficial to drop down there when you check pearls and push them back towards the center to fix them. But yeah, I think that's all I had in my notes to talk about for warps today. I mean, I have been recording for almost 45 minutes at this point, so, like, I have talked a lot. I don't know how much of that was understandable or, like, well put, but I did my best, and hopefully, even if you are also pretty good at warped, you did learn something from this that you didn't know or just hadn't thought of before. So, thank you for watching, I guess. My throat kind of hurts from yapping. Bye-bye.